So thank you very much for presenting the challenges of finding the balance, I would say, between traditional ways of resolving conflicts and Western values, principles of conflict resolution. I have a few questions, but I would like to open the floor to your questions first. What would you like to discuss or to ask? Yes, please.
Hi, Kira Narieli with Harvest Strategies Group. I'm going to make mistakes with how to pronounce names, so I'm going to just ask Ms. N. Sorry, Nox? Yes. Excellent, okay. So Nox, I wanted to ask you how you're defining ADR, because you're mentioning ADR versus traditional systems, and to me, traditional systems are all part of ADR. So I'm curious how you're defining the differences, or if there are overlapping similarities, what are they? Can you elaborate a little more on your definitions? Thank you.
Okay, so I'm just going to, my definition of ADR is the classic one that I have been taught, where you have alternatives to the court system. So that would generally be arbitration and mediation, or a combination of the two, or even violence is ADR. But I think when they are teaching us ADR, people don't generally bring in the traditional justice system into it. And in fact, when you look at the traditional justice system, it actually has those components of negotiation, arbitration, mediation, all incorporated into one. They can actually function either as a single individual doing all of those things, or different people in the community that do various parts of the ADR process. But when I'm referring to ADR, I'm talking about what generally gets used as part of the justice system, sometimes not part of the justice system, but is strictly arbitration, separate from mediation, and maybe negotiation falls in somewhere in between.
Thank you. Do you want to add something?
Yes, also, you are asking how is it different from traditional ways. In our traditional systems, there's nothing alternative. We talk about alternative dispute resolution. With us, if we say alternative dispute, there's nothing alternative. There's nothing different from what we are used to, that convention we were exposed to.
But it is different from your traditional way of processing conflicts in your communities, right?
Yes,
Yes.
In as far as process governance. But there may be some similarities, but in a broader way,
Yeah.
it's different.
Yeah, but this is actually your challenge, to see what is different and what is common, and to try to restructure the way you approach conflicts.
Unless we want to restructure, but in our situation, even a child, through observation, through seeing how parents interact, if there's a tension, how is it handled? We don't say an outsider coming into the family. I'm talking about family, spousal. Nobody will come in. There's a way that is done. We young people, we're not taught about how this thing is done, through observation. Nobody came in to say, hey, husband and wife, brothers and sisters, handle it this way. There was nothing else different. If you were to do something different, this is where you would be bringing the family into disrepute. Our ancestors' anger would fall onto any member of the family. We were scared of that. We were scared of anything happening in the family, which should be attributed to me having not observed the protocol, the convention. So this thing, alternative to dispute, there's nothing different. I would ask you to look at University of South Africa's African dispute resolution approach. Google UNISA. They've got a particular African unit dealing with African dispute resolution approach. This is where Professor Uwazi, he attended that workshop. I think it was June. It was organized by UNISA, University of South Africa.
Thank you. Thank you. More questions, please? All right, who was the first one to do justice?
Thank you, Nox and Pat. In terms of, I think, Nox, I get what you're talking when
Can you present
confidentiality-
yourself, please?
Sorry?
Can you present yourself too, please?
Oh, sorry. My name is Genevieve Sabala, and I teach here.
In America?
I live here in America, and I teach in the Department of Social Sciences. But I'm also doing my Ph.D. at Nova Southeastern University in the Department of Conflict Resolution Studies.
All right. Thank you.
So I understand when you talk about that conflict, the ethical dilemma that comes with confidentiality and transparency when you have the clients from either party trying to figure out, asking you what is it that they told you. And I'm wondering if, one, setting clear ground rules from the get-go so that they understand your role and not what they're supposed to, and understand not just your role, but things that they should not expect of you or from you. Making it clear that, you know, I'm doing this, I'm a mediator. I'll be talking to you, and I'll also, you know, I'll be talking to the other party as well. But you're not, based on my role, I'm supposed to understand what is going on in order to help you guys discuss your own solutions. So you're not supposed to be asking me what I discuss with the other party based on the fact that we have to put that respect there from the get-go in the ground rule. So then they're not coming to you and saying, okay, now what did they tell you? We don't trust you. And of course, it affects the level of trust. And that is not a good thing with any practitioner. You want your clients to trust you. I don't know if that would work, but then also in terms of empowering the clients so that when that situation takes place, that conflict occurs in Myanmar, and you know they have all these other stakeholders within the same. Can they be empowered so that from the beginning, before they set off with this project, they know should conflict arise, this is how we are going to approach it? Thank you.
Who's next?
Can I respond to these
Yeah,
questions?
sure.
Yeah. The first one, I think, you know, the ground rules get explained pretty well. I think what you then start to see is you ask yourself, well, why do people use the elders or a chief or somebody as a neutral third person? So if you have a conflict, for instance, let's just take Pat's examples of the family situation. If you are having a conflict with your sister, what is the likelihood that you are going to get the youngest brother to be the person who mediates that situation? You know? And why not? It's probably because there always is a requirement that you both go to somebody where there is a certain level of natural respect. Now, why do we want to have a person that we naturally respect? Sometimes it's because you want somebody who's going to be able to give you counsel, you know, and you feel naturally that, you know what, we're going to talk our own things, but at some point we would like for somebody who has got a little bit of authority and a little bit of clout to be able to give us counsel as parties, even if we come to our own solutions. So I think even though you explain to the parties that I'm not going to give you advice, and that the mere fact that they look at you as a neutral third party who probably has a little bit of authority, a lot of the mediation that I was doing was in the court. You know, it was court connected in Uganda. And so they feel that you're an officer of the court, and therefore there's natural respect, and they look up to you. And then they get confused as to now if you're a person that I look up to, and why is it that you are not going to be able to give me any counsel, you know? It's one of the challenges, because I started mediating when, I won't say I was young, because people generally think I am young, and I'm not as young as I generally look. But One of the things that has been a great challenge, particularly when I started doing community mediation, I was also called to do mediation in Pat's region, KZN. It was with the taxi industry, and they asked me to be the lead mediator there. Now, that region where he comes from, although we speak the same language and we're of the same cultural background, but they're very much patriarchal community. And so my presentation in this particular place, even though I had years of experience in mediation, was that people looked at me and felt, you're young, you're female, you're even wearing pants. It's not going to work for us, you know? And it was not necessarily about the fact that I have experience, but it's that when you come into a situation, people want you to have a certain level of clout, a certain level of stature, because at some point, perhaps they are going to be wanting to get counsel and advice from you. And if I look like a 13-year-old and I'm speaking to men that are 40 years old, it's just going to be a mixed match.
Thank you.
Let me just add on.
We have only 5 minutes left, and
The issue of
we have only 5 minutes left, and I would like to also leave some time for conclusions. So please respect. We'll have another question after you.
the issue of trust, so critical. Beyond the family, in the village, community at large, the Bushmen of the Kalahari Desert, the Bushmen of the Kalahari, they've got one person who is trusted by the whole community, the whole village, the whole district. He is called Karakora Jew. Karakora Jew. He is a trusted man. Everybody, whenever there's a dispute, the elders, the senior people in the community, they'll call him to come in and mediate. Also, in some other instances in our country, we educate so much. I'm responding also to that part of your question. That people, how would you do it so that people, when they come to this mediation session, they've got a clue? You know, I often say to government people, educate before you legislate. Because you are used to this adversarial dispute resolution system. Lawyer, I want my lawyer, I've got my lawyer. We even take insurance so that in case you have got a dispute, your lawyer comes in. So we are involved. Like my foundation is involved in education. We train a lot, particularly people in far-flung rural areas.
Thank you. One more question. What?
We have to get going.
All right, so let me just conclude that this discussion is really interesting and opened more questions than resolution or solution for the issues that we raised. What came up to my mind is whether conflict is a positive experience in your culture, because you mentioned conflict resolution, management, prevention, and just mentioned a little bit of Bush, but nothing about conflict transformation. So the question I am left with is whether you see in your culture conflict as an opportunity for growth and learning. So that's one thing. And actually, following that, what is harmony? Is harmony without conflict? Is the conflict that you are talking about is destructive? That's the conflict you are talking about. So let me leave these.
I'm not going to respond to your inquiry.
You are not?
I say it's a pity.
Yeah, I know. But you know,
it's
good. It's good that we have questions, and we'll keep on talking afterwards. Thank you so much for attending this interesting discussion, and we'll see you.